Anyhow, welcome again to A Hopeful Holler Makes video podcast. This is a podcast where I will primarily be discussing the fiber arts, knitting, spinning, crocheting, weaving, processing raw wool. I will go ahead and just jump right into works in progress. And so right now what I'm working on is the infamous Find Your Fade shawl. I attempted to pull some yarns last year sometime. I think it was in January or so. It's on my Instagram, and you see a lineup of purchased wool and some of my hand spun. I liked it, but not enough to go through with it. So I never actually cast on for that Find Your Fade. But then I was at my LYS, West 7th Wool, and Sweet Sandra there was knitting on hers, and it was so beautiful. And she told me that she purchased a kit actually from Mrs. Babs. And so I sat on that for a while and finally hit buy. And so I purchased my yarn, and this is just actually exactly what I needed. And by needed, I meant want and needed. So I am on color 5, I believe. And so you can see this is where I'm at. I'll try and get up a little bit closer. So it's starting to pull in the last two colors right here that will be, I have them right here, this, which is Zinfandel. Don't know how to say that. Zinfandel. Mrs. Babs. And this beautiful blue, kind of a turquoise person. I really like that. So these will be the last two colors of my Find Your Fade. Yay! But the really cool thing about this is I did not start out with a strong love for this. I like green a lot, a whole lot. It's one of my favorite 3 colors, but typically my green wheelhouse, so to speak, is more of a hunter green. So it obviously it's changing colors because where I record is here in my little office, my husband's part / studio. So we have a skylight in here, so I know that it's gonna be a little bit blown out, and I'm gonna play with places to record, but I really ended up liking a lot. So this is just a plain green. It then goes into a little bit of a sparkle green. That's the second color. And then this I just think is gorgeous. It's a pulling in that golden brown color that we all adored in the 1970s. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we were just children and just saw it around, but it just makes me happy. So every now and then I do put it on just to see what it's gonna look like. And even though this isn't a great color for me, this golden color, I think altogether, once it's done up in all of its awkward fabulousness, it's gonna be really cool. And so the story behind this and the goal and intention is to wear it on our trip to Oregon, Oregon and Washington. Very, very fortunate to be able to do this trip. It's something my husband and I have talked about for almost 30 years. And so I'll get more into the story later, but if you know me in real life, you know that when I was a little girl, I lived behind a yarn store in Oregon, and we are going back there. And of course I get extremely emotional thinking about it because I haven't been back to Oregon since I lived there as a little girl. And that was in 1976. And so I was 6 years old, and then in 3rd grade, we went on a field trip in Dallas to a place called Heritage Park. Then it was called Old City Park. And at that field trip, there were ladies dressed in period costumes. They were knitting and spinning, and I don't remember any weavers. They could have been there. That wasn't an immediate draw for me. But they were carding and knitting, spinning, and dressed in these period appropriate dresses, and I was in awe. You ask a little kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? Had I had the words for what that lady was exactly, that's what I would have said. Then as I got older, I did start with cross stitch in my 20s, and would be teased lovingly from friends and family about my old lady hobbies. And so now that I have all of this gray, I feel like I'm really growing into my old lady hobbies. Oops. And I love them very much, and they have been a great comfort to me. And if you're watching this video podcast, I assume that you find that comfort as well. And so that actually is another part of the podcast that I want to discuss, is the comfort, mental health benefits, relational benefits that we find in our hand making. So that's why it's called Hopeful Holler Makes instead of Hopeless. And there's more about that story later, little bits at a time. Don't want to overwhelm you all in the second podcast. So another that was my Find Your Fade. And now another work in progress that I have is a pair of vanilla socks. And this is, oh, the sun just came out, so it got super, super bright. Let me see if I can get close, maybe that'll make a difference. This is from Twisted Owl, and this is what I want to work on, and that's remembering my tags. It's Something Island, which, fun and sad story about this. During our yarn crawl, I was up at West 7th Wool, and Twisted Owl was having a trunk show that day. This also happened to be the day that the hurricane came into Houston, and all of the flooding really began. And so we were sitting around the shop talking, and I cast it on. I just needed something very comforting to work on, and so I left it in the other room. But I have the other sock that I knitted within 3 days approximately, because I happened to be off work, and I was glued to the Weather Channel. I just kept watching and praying and hoping and all the good stuff that I know we all have been doing, and trying to figure out our little bits and pieces of what we could do to help. So anyway, this is especially interesting because, again, you can't see it very clearly. Maybe there you can. I have a picture that I took while I was watching the Weather Channel, and this particular yarn looked very much like the actual screen that they were showing, the map of the hurricane and the flooding and all of the different zones. So I feel very special. I have a very special feeling about these socks, and haven't mentioned my Blue October yet, but I will. That's another part of this video podcast that I hope to introduce many knitters, fibery people to the band Blue October. I am a huge fan, and some of my blue family friends that I've I've met over the years through Blue October. I, of course, follow them. They follow me on Instagram. And one of the dear ladies, I doubt very seriously she'll watch this. She's not a fibery person, as we would say. But she is a dear lady, young lady. It was this same week that all this was going on, she found out that she had some very serious medical issues. And so if you've happened to follow me on Instagram, you know that, just like you, I'm sure, but just speaking for myself, I do take such great comfort and joy when I can make someone something with my hands that will provide a bit of comfort and encouragement. And I wish I could do it for every single person that I know or meet that struggles, but it's just something I really enjoy and I love to do. And so these socks actually will be for her. I'm hoping to finish this one within the next week and get that mailed off to her. I also want to mention, I don't know how to do, there we go. Let me turn it that way and around. It's Suburban Stitcher. I'm sure y'all are all familiar with her and the journey that she was on during the flooding situation. Very grateful for her. But anyway, the holder here, the word has left me. I know you're all whispering it to me so I can save myself. But this, for those of you who maybe have not seen these, they actually hold your needles in place so they don't poke through your bag, you don't lose one. Signature needles, you do not want to lose one of those. Oh, and I forgot. So this is Sukri, and that's my little Pop-Tart. I also have a pizza. I'll show you that. I'm sorry, not a pizza, a taco. But anyway, Suburban Stitcher. I got this at Fiberfest this last year and I have loved it. It has little bumblebees on there that have a very special meaning. I'll get into that another time, but I just love it. I think it's so cute. It spoke to me. So, oh, let me show you the taco. Again, Sukri. Many of you know it's not doing it justice. I am going to work on my lighting issue. But you can see it has all the good stuff. Some little corn tortilla, and it has tomatoes, and it actually has lettuce. It's just not getting any better. But it has guacamole and sour cream, and it's just so cute. So when I was a kid, healthy or not, one of my main favorite things was to go Jack in the Box and get 2 super tacos. I remember being a little bitty girl and that was my thing, nothing else, just 2 super tacos. That's all I wanted. Made me so happy. So anyway, that's why I have a taco. And Pop-Tarts, my husband loved Pop-Tarts when we first got married. Every time I go to the grocery store, I'd buy a couple of boxes because that was his morning breakfast. We've been married 28 years last week, and I don't buy Pop-Tarts anymore. So, not because I wouldn't if he asked, but he switched to eggs. We've both had a long journey on healthy living. So, anyway, again, another story for another time.